All right. Hello, as you join. My name is Gabriel Seng. Let's give the rest of the attendees a few more minutes to connect, and we'll get started. If you can please confirm you can hear me and you can see my screen, I'll appreciate it. You can do so via the chat or Q&A section. All right, we'll start in 2 minutes. Thank you. All right, well, let's get started. My name is Gabriel Sang. I'm TechSHIP specialist here at Techdinamics. And today we're going to share this webinar with you on mastering small parcel shipping strategies for efficiency and cost savings. This webinar is being recorded, so you'll have it available for you and your team if they were not able to make it today within this week in our YouTube channel. Okay. Needless to say, we have the Q&A section for any questions you might have as we share the presentation. So feel free to post there if you have any comments or questions, and I'll be more than glad to address those as I finish the presentation. So let's get started. When we talk about small parcel strategies for well, shipping efficiencies and efficiency and savings, basically successful warehouse runs on 3 basic pillars. One of those is the speed. If you're slow to process orders or if you have too many touch points, well, basically at the end of the month, you'll be wasting a lot of hours. So the more you can speed up the process at the packing line and while picking, of course, the better. Now, this speed process or speeding up the process could have risks, right? Because if these are typically handled manually, the faster you go, the more prone to errors you are, right? Depending on the variety of scenarios you have at the packing line or picking, and the devices that you can use, this could be a problem more than actually a solution, speeding up the process. So the idea today on that particular pillar is to talk about how to speed things up without the risk of doing so, okay? Getting the most benefit from the least risk at the time of doing so. For that, we're going to be sharing how to automate picking and packing line processes, okay? All the manual processes that could happen for picking and packing. We'll see how to automate those with techSHIP desktop client for those using packing line and processing orders one by one, and also a few tips and tricks that you can use also for batch processing, okay? Another of the pillars is effectiveness, okay? And this effectiveness could be related to the processes themselves, or could be related also to how a few things are handled. And it's typically associated with savings, the third pillar, okay? On these two pillars, we want to share two things that have been key to improving performance and at the same time uh, um, have savings for many of our clients. One of those is saving in packaging costs through cartonization. So the system can do all the heavy lifting and making optimal decisions when it comes to packing, choosing the right packaging option with many variables in place, because it's not only choosing the right box in terms of dimensions, but for example, a box that cannot take a specific weight could be a good match for dimensions, but could just open in the bottom and cause a mess, right? If it cannot take the weight, that's part of the order. So not only cartonization doesn't only optimize operations at the packing line, speeding up the process of not having to think which is the most optimal option, but also can save you time and money in that sense. And finally, rate shopping. Okay, rate shopping is fully focused in savings. So we're going to see how and what rate shopping options you have to cover your customers' needs. So going in the first point here, automatic picking and packing line processes, moving from manual processes to automation. Okay. So typically, if your process is manual, what you would do is import the order. You'll have to use a scale, or you'll have to have information coming from the WMS, and then have any sort of intervention in the middle from the packing line staff to properly define weights, dimensions, make sure that the SKUs are right and in place, so you can actually begin processing the order to get the label and then fully wrap up that specific order. Now, many of these elements can be automated, and sometimes we can rely on devices. In other cases, we can rely on different elements within techSHIP, and a combination of all of these is also another solution. Well, let me give you a brief example. One of the ways to automate some of these processes at the packing line is through devices, okay? If your WMS already has, and let me note this, the most optimal scenario is your WMS already providing all the information, providing dimensions, weight, making sure that all the information that should be checked and configured is there as part of the order, that, for example, you're not missing a phone number for an international order, that sort of detail, okay? But the thing is that sometimes you just don't have that information. You don't have SKU information at the WMS properly set up. You don't have carton information properly set up at the WMS. And you don't know in advance what you're going to use and how. So if within your operations, within your manual operations, you are at the packing line assigning weight and dimensions manually, okay, the best solution there, besides of course again getting all this information from the WMS, is to use special devices for that. The techSHIP desktop client can connect to USB scales and dimensioners, so you can get the right and exact weight and dimensions for a specific carton, okay? It doesn't matter if the orders are single or multiple carton order or multi-carton orders. These can be easily handled this way. Now, using these devices can be set in different ways. You could go basically the slow lane, where everything is done manually. Even though you have the devices, everything is done manually and step by step on the whole process, by the packing line operator. For example, let's say I import the order by scanning the pick ticket. I have a dummy carton in my order, and what I do is manually click in the scale button so the desktop client can go to the scale. And if I don't have a dimensioner, go to pick a box manually or fill in the values manually. Or if I have a dimensioner, connect it to the scale so I can get both values together. And then press process and print to actually process the order. Now, all these steps I just mentioned could be grouped under one action, which is just scanning the pick ticket. If you properly configure the TechSHIP desktop client, you can apply all these actions in a chain reaction as you scan the pick ticket. So if the box is on the scale and the dimensioner is properly configured, just by scanning the pick ticket, what TechSHIP will do is import the order, grab the information that we have from the WMS, go straight to the scale, which is going to go to the dimensioner, get the weights and dims, assign those to the carton, and automatically request the label to the carrier, okay? Without any additional intervention, just by scanning the pick ticket. I'm going to show you these options in the TechSHIP desktop client later in this section. Then we have predefined boxes. Maybe you don't have a dimensioner. Maybe it's not within your plans or your budget or within your operation plan at all. And you're not going to use it. But you can use predefined boxes, okay? Predefined boxes can be defined at a client level. So each client can have its own predefined boxes, okay? Maybe for one client, you just have a few basic ones, small, large, and medium. Maybe for another one, depending on the nature of the goods you're shipping, could require more carton models, sizes, or types. So predefined boxes or cartons allows you to tell the system in advance, these are the models of boxes I have. So at the time of handling these at the packing line, what you can do is add these boxes just by scanning a barcode that can be created for those. I'm also going to show you that later within this session. These can save a lot of time, can save a lot of money, and also can save a lot of human error because you're not having manual input in any of these elements or minimum manual input in the worst case scenario, and everything is streamlined and standardized, okay? The last element here, automatic sorting, doesn't relate to the packing line as such or packing line processes that much, but more on the picking side, okay? Automatic sorting can be configured at a client level where you can tell TechSHIP how you want to sort the orders in a batch when you're batch processing, so you can properly and efficiently plan your picking, okay? A typical inefficient picking scenario is your staff aimlessly walking through the warehouse, okay? Or with some guidance, but not efficiently, fulfilling a particular order or picking for fulfilling a particular order. Going through an aisle to another, picking one or the other item, while within a batch, you could actually group many of these and say, well, let's organize this batch and sort it by different criteria, sorted by SKU. So when I pick, my route is planned based on the SKU. Maybe let's sort it by SKU, location, and quantity, right? Because maybe just by SKU might not be efficient. So we have options for that where TechSHIP will do this previous work and line out everything as efficiently as possible. So not only do you get to pack fast at the packing line, but also pick fast and efficiently before that, okay? We're going to review some of these later in the session as well. Now, leaving the picking and packing at the packing line for a moment, let's talk a little bit about cartonization. All these elements that we have mentioned so far require devices, require configuring predefined boxes and manually picking them or scanning them at the packing line, but they require human intervention at the end, okay? Now, cartonization is a feature that TechSHIP supports with different algorithms, uh, handling different levels of complexity, that allows you to basically predefine a set of boxes with different parameters for thickness, maximum usable capacity, maximum weight that they can take. So TechShip can take a look at the SKUs and based on the SKU information, try to find the best match for the parameters you've chosen, okay? So it has multiple benefits, as we see here in the slide, ranging from costs to performance. But the four key elements are reducing unnecessary packing and shipping costs, okay? A typical case of having just a few packing options and you're being wasteful all the time or most of the time because, well, it just, you're prioritizing speed over efficiency at the time of packing. So you don't sit down and try to see if the small or the medium box is the best match in a fringe scenario. You just grab maybe the easiest option. It's really up to the packers at the packing line, right? This can be optimized because the TechShip can handle all your parameters and automatically make the decision for the packer of what is the most optimal way to handle, okay? So the idea of cartonization is to reduce unnecessary packing and shipping costs, being wasteful at the time of packing, having faster and more efficient packing, okay? Because obviously, if I don't have to think about which box I need to use for all the SKUs I have in front of me in a pick bin, I just get the feed from the system. You need to use a medium box. That's it. I'm just gonna go grab a medium box, put everything inside, print the label, and I'm good to go. Also increase the profitability by boosting performance, okay? And this performance comes in many flavors. We're talking about time, because all those seconds that are not wasted at trying to figure out if I need to choose a small or a medium box are going to be used on something more productive. And also profitability in terms of savings, because you'll be using your packing options in a cost efficient way. And also safe packaging being the fourth key point here, based on weight capabilities, okay? If you use cartonization, you know by fact how much weight your predefined boxes can take. There is no margin of error if you have your proper SKU information. Because if you know that a box is going to take 20 pounds maximum, then cartonization, if it has SKUs that can fit the box, but are over the weight capability, TechShip is going to split that order in more than one carton, in as many cartons as weight capabilities can be taken. Okay, so you don't have to be afraid of having a loose or a box causing issues in that sense. You'll know that every time you pack, you're not only packing in terms of dimensions, but you're also keeping an eye on the weight capabilities. Okay, we're going to be analyzing cartonization in practice in a few minutes as well. So cartonization is compared to what we saw before, basically the ultimate solution. Because you won't require any additional devices, you won't require any manual or predefined carton scanning at all, any barcodes at all. The system just cooks everything for you, and that's it. Everything will be pre-solved for the packer, okay? And then, as a third pillar, we have rate shopping, okay? What we have on the left is the inefficient way to handle this, which is having a fixed carrier and service. Obviously, in some cases, there could be business reasons for this, why someone would arbitrarily choose a specific carrier and the specific service for that. But typically, those decisions are made based on things that could be put into parameters or rules or restrictions. Because that decision, unless it's it's just an arbitrary decision as such, without any reason, will always have something which has to be taken into account, and the reason why the choice was a specific carrier and service. And as such, that logic could be ported to rate shopping, okay? So for example, let's imagine that we're shipping goods that could deteriorate in time. Let's say that we're shipping food that cannot be sitting over the weekend on a truck, okay? So in that case, I know by fact that I shouldn't ship some of these items, or within my whole SKU list, anything that could go bad, maybe up to Thursday or Thursday night or a Thursday afternoon. Why? Because if the transit time does not meet the standard for delivering that before the weekend, some of those shipments will end up being delivered on Monday or on Tuesday and end up in a claim or end up with someone sick, right? Eating something that wasn't in good condition. So all this logic is portable to TechSHIP, right? Basically anything that we would think about to as a human and manual process arbitrarily choosing a carrier and a service could be ported to rules that do that automatically for you. Okay, so for that you'll need to handle client billing account setup to create those billing accounts for the carriers under your clients and define rate shopping conditions, which we're going to see later as well. This will allow us to basically do two things. First of all, compare rates across carriers, if we're doing carrier versus carrier rate shopping, or within a specific carrier. Maybe you do want to work with just one carrier, okay? You, let's say, based on trust or a contract or anything you like, you are arbitrarily using a carrier, okay? But you might need or you might want to use different services, okay? So the whole idea of this is to compare rates, either across carriers or within a specific carrier, okay? And then have the system do an automatic selection of what's most efficient in either terms of cost, transit time, and many other rules that we might have for the proper carrier and service, okay? We basically configure the result that we want, and then TechSHIP is the one that does all the heavy lifting, compares everything from end to end, and ends up choosing the most cost-effective option. Of course, taking into account the parameters that we have configured, okay? So rate shopping is the other pillar here, okay? Let's do it. Let's jump into TechSHIP environments and make this happen, okay? So first of all, let's start with automating picking and packing line manual processes. Okay, first of all, let me go to maintenance clients here in this environment. Within maintenance clients, you'll find your list of clients, which probably you're already acquainted with. And here, what we can do is, let's say we are working with this particular client, Mark's Lawn Products. And within here, you're going to see this section, sort sequence, okay? Their sort sequence is defined for every new client as default. But within here, we have different elements of criteria. Some of these are individual criteria elements. For example, let's sort the batch by quantity, for example. So the most to the least SKUs will be picked based on that. But maybe that's not enough. Maybe I just want to organize by location, okay? So at the time of processing the batch is going to get sorted based on the location of the SKUs. So I'm going to have A, B, C, D, E, and F, and I'm going to be picking those as that order is presented. But you can also combine different criteria. So for example, an option like this would sort the batch by location, within the location by SKU, and within the location and SKU by quantity, okay? This is something absolutely external to the actual processing of the order. Okay. You define this beforehand. And at the time of importing the batch, this is going to kick in and sort things properly based on your order's information. Needless to say that your order's information requires to have these elements at hand, because obviously you cannot sort by SKU if your orders in the WMS just have a box with no SKU details inside, or it has SKU details and the quantity, but doesn't have the location, okay? So basically the limitation is what the WMS can provide or could be completed in that sense. But source sequence is a really useful tool to help picking and later packing, okay? Now, as for packing, let's imagine that we sorted that out. We're going to go to the TechSHIP desktop client and think a little bit about the packing line. What I'm going to do right now is bring an order that has everything at hand, okay? Everything ready and good to go. So the best case scenario is what we'll see right now. I'm going to be scanning pick order number, and this is going to automatically process the order. Okay, as you can see, 2 or 3 seconds, the order was imported. We pushed this information to the carrier. We got the rates, we got the service, and the labels already printed. I can scan the next one. It's going to take more time for me to manually reach the box and print the label than actually and stick the label to it than actually producing the label. Okay. Now you can get to this kind of number at the time of processing orders as you have the basic information at hand, and by defining a couple more things in terms of the application behavior. Okay. If you go the slow lane, which you could perfectly do so for different reasons, you could do something like this: scan the pick ticket, and instead of processing and print straight ahead, which does everything in one shot, you can preview. Okay. Preview is going to preemptively bring all this information to your order, the order information to the desktop client. And from here, you're free to do anything additional that might be needed, okay? For example, choosing a predefined box from the list that you already defined to actually get a real weight from the scale, or if I have a dimensioner, get the dimensions from the dimensioner together with the weight of the scale as well in one shot, right? There are many elements in actions that you can define and perform if that's required before you actually press process and print to get your labels. But again, the least amount of touch points, the better, because you're preventing human error on one end, and on the other time, you're saving time, and by saving time, you're saving money. Now, how do you define this application to automate the behavior you want, whichever the case? Within the settings section, you're going to see that there are 2 sections, connection and printer. We're going to focus in connection right now, okay? And what I want to show you is this particular section where we have a few checkboxes, okay? The one that stands out first is scale on process, okay? If this option is on, scale on process, what you're telling TechSHIP is, when I scan that pick ticket, I want you to go to the WMS, get the order information, push it to this application, go to my scale, go to my dimensioner, get the wet sentence, assign that to the order, and go to the carrier and get me the label. Everything by just using the trigger scanner to scan the pick ticket. Everything runs automatically if you have it set up that way. Also, if you have dummy weights and dims, you could perfectly override the WMS weight and dimensions here, okay? Okay, so scale and process is the fast lane, if we were to name it something, okay? The fastest lane. Now, this would, as I mentioned before, require you to have a scale, a dimensioner, and all the information, all the basic information in the WMS, ship to address, and maybe a dummy carton, okay? Well, if you don't want to go the fast lane because you have other operations you want to perform or you need to perform, you can preview on enter, okay? When you preview and enter, what's going to happen is that when you scan the pick ticket, TechSHIP is going to go to the WMS, get all the information from there, have it available here, but not move forward in any other process, okay? You are totally free to manually choose a predefined box from the dropdown, to manually enter dimensions and weight, to manually scale or dimension, but all these operations have to be performed manually. But when you scan, you get the preview automatically. Instead of scanning and then pressing preview here, this action is performed in one shot. Similar scenario with estimate on enter. This is typically used by warehouses that want to rate shop, but they don't want the system to have the final word on what carrier and service to use. Rather, they estimate and then manually pick which option is the most optimal based on their subjectivity of the case, okay? One of these cases, for example, was a warehouse that wanted to make decisions on flat rates. So these were comparing flat rates to regular rates, and they had many scenarios at the same time. But for the flat rates, for example, they're required to have the branded boxes, right? You cannot ship in your own box for a flat rate. So what they would do was estimate on enter. So they brought the information from the WMS. They already had what they needed in that sense. So TechSHIP could automatically ask for a quote. And then from the dropdown, I was able, or we were able to choose, manually choose from all the possible options, which ones were going to be taken into account, okay? We have a question here in the Q&A section. It's a really good question. How would this work with multiple boxes in an order? So let me explain how that would work. So if you have this, let's say, fast lane process where you just scan the pick ticket and TechSHIP does everything from bringing information to go into the devices, getting DIMS, weights, go into the carrier, etc., etc. If you have more than one box, TechSHIP is going to run that whole process for the first one, okay? And since the second, third, or fourth, or whichever amount of boxes we have in the order will not have dimensions and weight, TechSHIP will error out, okay? And what it's going to do is solve everything for the first carton in the multi-carton order to then allow you to manually scale and dimension the others, okay? So the first one would go fast lane. It won't get a label because you weren't able to process yet. The carrier is rejecting your order because you're missing them some weight on your other cartons. But what you can do is, for example, let me add a few here, just for the sake of example, all right? So let's imagine I scanned this one, I got an error from the carrier, but the first one is solved. It has the proper weight, proper DIMS, right? What I'm gonna do is remove that first box from the scale and dimensioner, put it aside, put the second one and press scale, okay? As I press scale, I'm gonna get weights and DIMS, everything is gonna be fine. Remove that one from the scale and dimensioner, put the next one, press scale. Once I'm good to go, I'm gonna be doing manual scale and process, and then process and print. Okay, so that's the way to approach multi-carton orders via fast lane. Okay, so it's really up to you on how you want to handle it. If these are going to be coming from the WMS, fine. But if you have human intervention here at the packing line with the TechSHIP desktop client, you can apply the fast lane solution because maybe, I don't know, let's say that out of 100 orders, if 10 are more, if 10 of those orders are multi-carton orders and the other ones are single carton orders, the single ones go fast lane express mode. Scan and print, scan and print, scan and print, scan and print. But the multi-carton ones are going to be scan, get the information, uh, uh, and get the first one ready. But then you need to remove the box from the scale and dimensioner, put the second one, and manually hit scale here. Okay. Yes, that's right. Going on the Q&A section, it's not processing automatically. You still have to hit scale. The good news here is that you can also use hotkeys. Okay, so if you don't want to reach the mouse, click and scale, this could also be prone to human error, even though you can rescale if you wanted to. Maybe you clicked on the wrong one. But yes, you can scale, and be good to go. In that case, the process cannot be fully automated because there's a physical obstacle to it, which is that you have to remove the box from the dimensioner, the first one, to then place the second one, and so on and so forth. It's a rinse and repeat until you run out of boxes, and then you're good to hit process and print. Okay. But yes, that's how the process would go. Even though, again, that scenario requires human intervention, it does handle at least the first one, and save you time on that. Okay. This is something that wouldn't happen in a cartonization scenario because cartonization happens all at the same time, right? TechSHIP is going to see your whole SKU group for the whole order, regardless of how you set it up in the WMS. Could be one carton, two cartons as let's say as a tentative amount of cartons. But in that sense, cartonization will just rearrange it for you. And what you'll see over here going fast lane is scan the pick ticket, get all the labels out, and then take a look at the packing slips, so you can know which SKUs go on which box. Okay, but everything will be handled as a whole and at the same time. The dimensions will be obtained from predefined boxes, depending on the boxes that were chosen, and the weight will be the added weight of the SKUs that were assigned to that particular carton. So in that way, you can go fast lane without having the proper box structure within your WMS. The only thing you need to worry about is that your items, your SKUs, do have weight and dimensions individually. So TechSHIP can use them to rotate, to try to fit in the boxes and have everything right in place in there. Okay. Okay, as for the desktop client, again, just a quick reminder to summarize. Scale and process, fast lane, okay? Perfect option for single carton orders and at least a few miles in the race for multi-carton orders, okay? Preview and enter saves you the time and effort to manually go and click in preview to get the information from the WMS, and estimate and enter does preview plus tentative rate shopping, so you can manually choose, and once you're good to go, then you hit process and print. All right, these are different levels of automation, of course, and not every mode is fit for every warehouse, especially because you might have different scenarios and processes in other warehouses, but you can converge into any of these three options as you wish. And the good news is that you could have different behaviors depending on the packing line. If you have 10 packing lines, you can have 2 working full express mode, then you can have the other 8 with different less automated levels, still with some levels of automation. Each TechSHIP desktop client instance installed at the packing line can have different behavior modes. Okay, packing line 1, 2, and 3 express mode, and the other ones regular or more or less automated. So with this, we covered automatic picking and packing line processes. Okay. Good. From the TechSHIP desktop standpoint, let's talk about a little bit about cartonization. Okay. Cartonization is useful for well, not having to do everything I just explained, right? Having to manually scale and dimension, having to manually pick a predefined box. Cartonization just does the job for you in that sense. It does require, and it sits in also three pillars. One of those is the predefined boxes. For example, here for this client, I have three type of boxes, right? Large, medium, and small. 12 by 12 by 12, 24 by 12 by 12, and 24 by 24 by 24. And when I define these, what I need to do is tell the system not only the dimensions of the box as such, but also how cartonization will should use this box in terms of the minimum volume utilization for optimal performance, as well as the minimum or maximum weight that it can take. Okay. So you can choose to be very or less wasteful in terms of the minimum volume utilization. A box could be a great match for the SKUs I have, but maybe I'm just wasting too much space. So at least it needs to fill half of the box, right? And I could be more strict. I could say, well, I don't want to use this box as long as it's filled out 75%, right? Let's imagine a heavy duty box, right? Which is thicker cardboard, reinforced bottom, and that's going to be obviously more costly than a regular one, maybe with the same dimensions. So for the heavy duty ones, this is what I want to be as filled out as possible, leaving a little bit of space for maybe other packing materials such as air packs or ice packs if I'm shipping food, and having a maximum weight. If what I'm shipping is over this amount, I need another box. Okay. So cartonization can work all this magic if as you provided with different packaging options in boxes, and you need to tell how these boxes should behave and what parameters are good or bad for them. Okay. The other element relating cartonization is the cartoning per mode. Okay. By default, TechSHIP will use default, which is bringing your WMS information exactly as it is there. Either if it's a perfect order with the perfect weights and limbs, or just a dummy box with 0, 0, 0, and 0 as for weights and limbs, right? But if you choose cartonization, you're going to see that an additional control shows up, which is the algorithm that you're going to be using for that. We have three algorithms for cartonization. One is basic, the other one is basic with rotation, and the other one is EBA fit. Okay. EBA fit is basic with rotation with a 3D model showing you how to pack these step by step. Okay. I'm going to show you a brief example of how this works in action. Okay. But again, you could be as strict as you'd like here. Maybe just basic cuts it for what you need. Maybe if you have too many regular SKUs or SKUs that could fit in between other SKUs and reduce spaces in the carton, you might want to do basic word rotation. And EBA fit is the ultimate solution in that sense, which will also help the packers to not start playing Tetris at the packing line. If the fit is too tight for the SKUs that you have, sometimes the packers, even though you might be using cartonization, might end up trying to figure out, good, the computer knows how to fit all this in here, but I just don't see the way. If you're doing a minimum volume utilization of 80%, for example, that other 20% might end up being playing Tetris, rotating the packer, rotating things and trying to fit them this way or that other way because it's a puzzle to solve. So EBA fit shows you step by step how you should handle those. Okay, let me show you one of these orders in this environment. Okay, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring a batch, and I'm going to bring this batch as default. Okay, so let me show you just a second. To rate shopping, to merge here, okay? Just a second. Batch number, okay. Let's try to do fast import. Let me show you the client first, okay? So within the client section, right now we have carton import mode, cartonization with EBA fit. I'm going to set it as default, and I'm going to on the client section, and I'm going to change the sort sequence to regular there, okay? And I'm going to refresh here. Oh, okay. Okay, let me show it to you here. Let's do import orders. And bring it this way. Okay. So when we handle it this way, okay, you'll see that as the orders are preemptively imported, there's weight dimensions, right? That might or might not be real. Okay, this could be perfectly dummy weights and dims that come from the WMS. Now, for cartonization, these could be reorganized in different ways. Okay, because maybe that's not the right fit or the right way to handle it. Okay, so what I'm going to show you right now, I'm going to try to find a batch here which has been cartonized. So you can see the models of EVA fit. Okay, as you can see here, we have this. And, well, let me show you the SKUs first, okay? We have this one, all right, which was fit in a medium box, 12 by 24 by 12. And I have three units of item 1 and 1 unit of item 2, okay? This section will have view packing, and you'll see a 3D model of the box. And as you move forward step by step, this is going to show you how you're going to fit your SKUs. This doesn't only help you see how you should fit them, but also how much space you're wasting on that carton ahead of time, okay? And it doesn't matter how complex or how many boxes you end up having, either one or many. Let me see if I can find one with many SKUs. Sorry, with many cartons. I think I don't. Yeah, this one, for example, okay? This one has been split into many cartons, even though it was just one order with one specific group of SKUs. And then when I view packing here, this is a regular large box, okay? This is how I fit these two big SKUs. But in some cases, that might not be simple because maybe, well, second one is good, but this one, this rectangular box, let's see how many SKUs I need to fit. 4 of item 1 and 1 of item 2. So over here, this is explaining to me how I should fit those. This is a full fit. As you can see, the first the first 3 were full fits. This one is probably the one that has a little bit of wasted space. Well, no, it's a perfect full fit. Nice, perfect. Okay, so cartonization is gonna do the heavy lifting. And when you print these orders together with the courier label, you're gonna get a packing slip that points out to the SKUs that should be packed into which type of box. Okay, so the packer will see, oh, this packing, this particular one is have the, let's say I have the FedEx label, so it can be shipped. Also have this packing list. I need to put 4 units of SKU 1 and 1 unit of SKU 2 in this one. I just pack it and I'm good to go with the next one. Okay. Cartonization, going to the Q&A section. It's assuming that dimensions in WMS are correct. That is right. These are also, which is the other key element here, are also defined here in TechSHIP. What you need to do is synchronize your item list from your WMS into techSHIP, or export that item or SKU list from your WMS and push it into techSHIP. So techSHIP locally resolves based on the boxes, on the items, and on the algorithm, which is the best packaging option for that. As for the desktop client, one of the questions is if you are able to edit the address on desktop client, and the answer is yes. In fact, many times when you have issues with your addresses, you have a typo on the city, you have a missing address element, I don't know, you have a company but you don't have a name, right? Or there's an empty phone number. You could perfectly change it from here if that's something you like to do, okay? If you go fast lane, you're just going to grab whichever address is there and push it to the carrier. But if you want to check or modify anything, you could perfectly preview and then make any changes. For example, here, let's say that this is going to apartment 2003, right? And then we process and print. Well, and to wrap up, we have rate shopping. In the last few minutes we have for this section. Rate shopping can be handled in many different ways. As I mentioned before, I can rate shop within a specific carrier. Maybe I only want UPS and I rate shop UPS only, but I rate shop services within UPS. Or you could have cross-carrier rate shopping like what we have here. If I try to process an order as rate shopping for this client, Gold Enterprises, I'm going to be rate shopping LTL options, FedEx Small Parcel, GTA GSM, Pure Later, UPS, and USPS. Okay, whenever applicable, rates are going to be returned, and whenever these don't apply, these are going to be ignored. Going a little bit back on another question before we jump into the practical example for rate shopping. There's a question on the TechSHIP desktop client that the shipper won't know if the address is wrong. Well, if you try to ship with a bad address, the carrier, if you have address validation on, the carrier will let you know through an error message what the problem is through this section. For example, if I try to process this without a city and with a bad postal code, I'm going to get an error message back. If I try to process and print now, let's give it a moment. Well, this is hitting a test environment. I might have issues here. Let's delete. Okay, it's complaining about the shipping without weights, right? Okay, so that's another thing. But let's see if it goes through. See, so for example, in this case, if the packer tries to go with an order through and it has an address issue, you're gonna see it here. Error, invalid recipient city. And I'm gonna look at this and okay, it doesn't have a city. Let's check, I don't know, the sales order. Let's see what went on from the WMS, etc. And change it from here, Toronto. Okay, when I try to process and print now, it says that invalid recipient postal code format. Oh, okay, I'm missing three more elements here. Okay, so until you process and print, you won't know. Okay, when you try to process and print, then we reach the carrier, and TechSHIP will let you know. Okay, the order won't go through if the address is bad. If you have address validation services on for that billing account that you're trying to process through, for example, in this case, carrier, and the account which is being chosen on the Gold Enterprises, because it's a carrier itself rejecting that label. Okay. If the order is already processed, let's say that you didn't enable address validation services, and the order was processed and it does have an issue with the address, and then you figure out, oh, there's an issue here, it doesn't have the apartment number, there's an issue here, there's a typo on something, right? The desktop client is not intended for order maintenance. You'll have to go to the web client, void the order there, and maybe you can rescan it at the desktop client or fix it at the web client, okay? These are the two ways that it can be handled. You can find the order through the orders history section and say, oh, okay, this is the one that caused issues. Let's go to general, let's correct this. And I can process and print from here, that particular order. Or I can let the packing line staff, guys, it's good to go. You can scan it again. And TechSHIP is going to pick from the current local record that we have instead of going back to the WMS to where the VAT address is. So that's a way to approach issues with address correction. If out of the gate it's wrong, you're gonna see this type of error message. It's not gonna let you process. And if it does, and you realize that there was something missing or wrong, no address validation services on. In that case, you can find the order, void it, and then handle it from here, or reprocess, reimport, or rescan from the desktop client. Okay. Well, as for rate shopping, let me show you a rate shopping scenario. Let's import these orders since we have them here. As we saw before, this client has 4 carriers, 4 domestic carriers and 2 international carriers to ship through. What I'm going to do is process. Typically, we'll do process and print, okay? Because you also want the labels printed. In this case, we don't. But we are reaching carriers all at the same time, asking for rates and comparing them, okay? Based on what's more optimal, TechSHIP is going to start getting labels responsive from the carriers and labels printed as the batch gets processed. So for example, as you can see, this is a test environment. It's typically much slower than the real deal, okay? But as you can see, we already have one, which is UPS standard here. Then we have another few populated, pure later ground, UPS, FedEx, okay? So let's see this one, where UPS won the shipping. If we go to rates, we're going to see a comparison of everything that was taken into account, carriers and services, to see which one was chosen and why, okay? There could also be other variables like transit time, okay? By any other rules that could be important or relevant for this sort of operation. But for example, here, UPS won based on the cheapest option from other carriers by $9 here, by let's see, ground, but just a few cents here with FedEx. And well, the other ones are LTL options, but as you can see, not that far away either, right? $39. So what happens behind the scenes for this? What if I don't want a specific service? What if I want some services, but based on other parameters? Because for example, here, you have rate shopping winning for this carry-on service, but the transit time is 4 days. And if I'm shipping food or medical supplies or anything that might go bad, maybe 4 days is too much. And what I want is the cheapest option, but as long as some conditions are met, okay? So for that, you can go to, or you can tweak restrictions for the carrier. So say, for example, let's grab UPS, okay? Within the billing account section, you have the restrictions tab. And from here, you can go with a basic filter mode, just cherry picking the services you want to exclude or the ones you want to include, whichever approach you want to take. But this is going to be plain for everything. For example, if I want to exclude ground, right? Because it might take too much time and it could be risky to ship this way. But maybe if you're shipping into zone 1 and 2, where you can make it same day or next day, you might be losing to a lot of savings because you could be shipping in a really cheap service as ground and have the same efficiency as next day air, right? So what you want to check is not only the service, if you want to exclude it or not, but have specific conditions for that. So we're going to take the next 5 minutes so we can wrap up the webinar to look at the advanced mode. When you switch to advanced mode, you can define if you want to block orders matching the criteria that you define or allow orders matching the criteria you define and block everything else. We're going to take that approach. And I'm going to add ground, as we just saw. Okay. But now you'll see that it doesn't plainly add to the list, but it does have a section for condition. I want ground, and by default, I want ground always. But maybe I don't. Maybe I want ground as long as the transit time, estimated delivery days, is less or equal than 2. And maybe I also want second day air. Well, I don't have it here in this particular setup, but let's say 3 days select. Okay, no, okay, I know why. Let's do this here. Let's do the same example. Set ground. Let's say second day. Okay. So what I'm doing here with this kind of setup on restrictions is having the same performance for ground and second day air as long as the conditions are met. Now, if we rate shop ground versus second day air, most likely there's going to be a huge difference in terms of cost. Because second day air is second day air. You're going to pay more money compared to ground. But the thing is that here, you're telling the system, rate shop ground as long as I have the same performance as second day air. Or better, maybe same day, right? I could also include next day air here. And this kind of restrictions would save me a lot of money having the same performance, okay? And you can obviously keep all the savings to yourself. If you're marking up, if you are charging your customer in different ways, all these savings can deliver the performance that you want, but by a much lower price and without the worry or concern of making a mistake at the time of shipping something that that could cause trouble in terms of shipping or shipping storage. Okay, so you could, for example, promise next day or 2-day shipping, and it's ground because it's in zone 1 and 2, and maybe for the rest of the country, it's going to be second day air, next day air, whichever is cheaper, right? But at least you think about the service, or the time and transit service side, and you don't have to worry about this at all. Every time you press the process and print button, rate shopping is going to trigger, and it's going to come to these rules. And you can make these rules as granular as you want. You can add as many conditions based on geographical area information, SKU information, ship to information, value, weight, DIMS. The list goes on. It's really, really lengthy on the things you can check and control for these conditions, okay? So, well, rate shopping is the last key element here, as you can see, to wrap up the efficiency line out. Having efficiency based on, as we saw in the beginning, efficiency based on cost, efficiency based on effectiveness, and efficiency based on speed. Okay. So, well, thank you for joining this webinar. I hope that you were able to, and I hope you're able to implement all these elements within your TechSHIP portals. I do have a raised hand here, so we can take an extra minute to go through that. Feel free to post a question here in the Q&A. Oh, good. We have one question. Can we rate shop between LTL and small parcel? The answer is yes. Okay, you can do so. You need to take into account that you need to have both. In fact, this particular setup that we see here is rate shopping LTL versus small parcel, right? For example, if you're shipping furniture, maybe, I don't know, a lamp, furniture and indoor elements, right? Maybe a lamp is a clear small parcel scenario, right? could be taken by FedEx, UPS, whichever. Now, if you try to ship a king size bed, that's a whole different story, right? So in that case, you could perfectly rate shop LTL versus small parcel. Those fringe scenarios, in some cases, small parcel will win the shipping. In other cases, LTL will. But as you can see here in this particular example on screen, you have a small parcel here. All this that you see highlighted is small parcel. And then here below, you see LTL, okay? They and Ross Commerce Solutions Ground, Road, okay? Then Pure Later Freight, Marathon Frozen, Dry, Kindersley, they and Ross, CCT. In this case, if you realize, if you check it, the difference between small parcel and LTL wasn't that much, okay? So yes, you could perfectly rate shop one against the other. Good, we're past time. Thank you for joining this webinar. We'll be more than glad to address any additional questions you have over email, through your CSMs or through support. And again, we're going to have this recording up so you can share it with your team. You can review it in detail in your own time. And as always, thank you for joining, and we'll be seeing us in the next webinar. Bye-bye.